What a nice little village. What could possibly go wrong? Gosh, dang it. So in The Messenger, you play as the Messenger, tasked with delivering a scroll to a distant mountaintop while fighting off the forces of the sinister Demon King. The Messenger doesn't like the Demon King because he killed literally everyone in his village except for him. For the most part though, he's pretty okay with what's going on. He cracks jokes, he's courteous, and seems like he's just happy that he finally has something to do. Even though everyone he ever loved is now dead. The first half of the game is your basic NES-style platformer. You'll jump, slice, and dice your way through the levels until unlocking the ability to warp through time. After that, the game turns into Metroidvania, and you can go back and explore previous levels and access different pathways and collectibles that you couldn't before. What's really cool about this is that when you warp through time, the graphics and music change from 8-bit to 32-bit, which was a really nice touch. Controls are good as well. More than good, I'd say. As a matter of fact, they're perfect. You can use the analog stick or the arrows to move, and every other button does what it's supposed to. Moving around feels really good too, and it plays well into the tricky platforming you'll be doing over the course of your adventure. I know that may seem like a trivial thing, but when you have platforming challenges that require precision and timing, it's nice to play as a character who's agile enough to make them. Ahem. The levels in this game are really well made and are pretty to look at regardless of what era you're currently in. They play out like a basic linear platformer for the first half of the game, like I said earlier, but you will have to do a lot of backtracking once you learn how to time warp. This part is bittersweet for me. Sweet because it's cool to see how your old stomping grounds look and sound in the future, but bitter because of how boring it can be. After going back to find all the collectible, or smashable seals and working on the main quest, I began to lose some of my appreciation for the early levels in the game because of how tedious it became to travel. It doesn't help that the fast travel system in the game isn't great either. You have these portals that unlock as you progress, but not every level has one, meaning you'll often have to backtrack through an entirely different level just so you can backtrack through the level you actually need to go to. It got really old really fast, and there were times where I was so fed up that I would rush through and allow myself to get hit just so I could get to my destination faster. Luckily, the game does introduce new levels that integrate the time warp mechanics super well. Why couldn't we have just gotten more of those? If you want my advice, finish the main quest first, then go after the seals. It'll reduce the monotony a great deal. You'll be given new abilities as you progress, like wall jumping or gliding, and you'll often be required to string them together, which just makes you feel awesome. You can also purchase upgrades by visiting the shopkeeper, who will power you up for the right price. And if you take the time to talk with him, you'll find that he's quite the chatterbox. He'll tell you stories that have no point, give you useless info about the level, and offer unhelpful advice for the next boss fight, but he's a nice guy overall. A little sarcastic, but he's the closest thing you have to a constant companion. Unless you find yourself dying a lot, in which case you'll be visited by this little imp named Quarble. He'll take you back to the last checkpoint in exchange for hovering around you for a few minutes and taking any loot you find. Keep in mind, he only takes what you collect after you've died. Everything you've snagged beforehand will remain in your pocket until you spend it. He'll leave after he's satisfied with what he's taken, or if you wait long enough, he'll just get bored and poof himself back to the netherworld or something. I really like this feature. It makes it so that there's still a consequence for dying without being frustrating. Because dying will be a frequent occurrence in this game as the levels are very challenging. Each one is built around the abilities you acquire during the level and any you already have. Like I said earlier, you'll have to string them together a lot, and the game isn't always forgiving of mistakes. The difficulty never gets frustrating though, and whenever I died I never felt the need to complain as it was my fault. It'll keep you on your toes, but again, the consequences for dying aren't too extreme. I have to take a moment here to talk about the humor. Despite the fact that you're on a quest to stop the end of the world, nobody, yourself included, really takes it seriously. The characters in the game will break the fourth wall or act really immature in the face of total annihilation, which is always entertaining. My favorite is easily the shopkeeper. In one level of the game, he tells you that there's no boss fight at the end, but I didn't believe him. I thought some big baddie would show up at the last second, and you know what happened? Nothing. They got me with reverse psychology. Even though the game can be pretty goofy, it does take the time to do some world and lore building, which I honestly wasn't expecting. There's some twists and turns that add some context to what's going on, and it's nice. It's nothing mind-blowing, but I love that the devs put in the effort to add it in despite the fact that they're paying homage to simpler times in the gaming world. In short, it made me love the game even more. Overall, The Messenger is almost perfect. It's fun, well-crafted, easy on the eyes, and got no short amount of laughs out of me. The only flaw with this game is the backtracking. But as long as you take that in short bursts, you'll be just fine and may find yourself even starting to appreciate it to an extent. I managed to beat the main story and find all the seals in about 12 hours, which was way longer than I thought this game would be. That may not sound like long for some, but believe me, for $20, you're gonna get your money's worth. I give The Messenger a full recommendation. Do yourself a huge favor and purchase it now.